Hey guys, this is Lil with another raid video. Carrying on from the last video because it just ended up being too long because I can just talk for too long. Today, just looking at planning your team. Okay, so we did this a little bit when I was showcasing my teams. Honestly, it's probably one of the things that I like best is like looking at, okay, who could I use? How could I min-max this? How can I use this champ that nobody ever uses in a different way? To me, it's a lot of fun. Honestly, I don't like spend my free time looking at it in OneNote. I do. So, we did buffs and debuffs. I might actually switch the order of these videos, so you might see this video before you see the champion builds for Hydra video. I'll see where I end up with them, recording them both at about the same time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flick over to where we were looking at buffs and debuffs, and then we're going to take a look at who's good at those in each role, and then we're going to look at planning your team based on your roster. So I'm afraid it's going to be a little bit of OneNote. I might cut over to game just to show you my own team planning. So I've learned to put myself on the right whenever we're talking about OneNote because I just always end up covering stuff up with my face. So these are the buffs and debuffs that we went through in that video in terms of what I think is most important. Block buffs, absolutely. Drop defense, revive, heal, damage, decrease attack, provoke, mischief tank. I wouldn't run a team without them. I have, and I sometimes do. As long as you know in your team what you're missing, that's fine. Like in my main team, my nightmare team, I do not have any counter for torment. Yeah, there's no veil, there's no shamal. I do run increase speed and decrease speed, but I know that if torment pops out, I don't have an answer for that. And my answer to that is mainly use hex to try and kill it. Yeah, is don't target it directly. You're going to get feared. Hope it doesn't pop out too many times, and know that sometimes you're going to have to free regroup if it pops out too many times. Yeah, so you can't fill all of these roles, like unless you've got some of the Duchess, the Crisks, the Siffies. If you've got all those and loads of them and you can spare them, then great. Yeah, you probably don't need this video. Throw them in together, it's fine. But like when I look at the optimizer for my champs, some of the best teams that it recommends don't run a mischief tank or don't run a provoker, which is fine as long as you know that. Like, so one of the teams that, in fact, let's cut over now and we'll just talk about how I plan teams and also my own team planning. Like one, and we talked about this briefly when I was looking at my team rebuilds. Yeah, so this is how I sort of split up my champs and I look at what am I covering. I have done it the other way around. I've got a table which is like the buffs and debuffs that I really want, and then I can put a tick mark for sort of who's doing which role. I'm not decided on which one I prefer. I'm probably used to eyeballing it like this now. But I always have a what am I missing column, because I'm always missing something. So like this team, which I think this is one of my... Yeah, so it was lacking. I did have a Shamrock in here, but it was lacking direct damage. Yeah, big hits for when someone's devoured, because you've got Artak and you've got Tila who are more like damage over time. There's no like really big enemy max HP hitter. So what I did was I took the Shamrock out, and your balance of damage dealer versus support will change over time. So like when I started hitting Brutal and Nightmare, I didn't have the champs to fit in 3 damage dealers. I had to run 4 supports. Yeah, so that was like a Reviver, a block debuffs champ, a Reviver, block debuffs, mischief tank, and depending on the teams, yeah, sometimes that was like needing to run a Shamrock for the tanky buffs and the speed up, speed down, and then running 2 damage dealers. And then over time, you figure out how your teams perform, your builds get better, your gear gets better, and you figure out what's important, what's not important, and then you can start to go, okay, like in this team, Tila's in here as a damage dealer, but the reality is she's bringing Leech and Hex and heals, so she's great and like a walking tomb. So champs that fill multiple roles are really useful because you can fill those in, like a Mashald who's bringing you increased speed as well as being a great damage dealer and Leech. So yeah, it's for me, knowing what you're lacking is really good because you don't know, that way you can play around it. So like in this team, which actually has done really well. I think I ran this on hard. I think it was about 160, and then I've run it in brutal, and it got like 100 or something. But yeah, so running Shamail, Mithrala, Jamesia, Uko, Royal Guard, Deacon, and Uko and Deacon are both in Provoke set, so we don't have a Provoker. That means that sometimes Decay is going to get a Provoke off, which is just going to happen. Like RNG, it's going to either get resisted or you're just not going to hit the percentage chances on your Provoke sets, even though you've got lots of AoEs going out. That's the reality of how you build your team, and you build your team knowing that, yeah? If you want to try and hit everything, you can hit everything, but you probably won't have enough damage to do what you need to do. So yeah, so it's like, have I got decreased attack or am I lacking that? And if I'm lacking that, you need to play around Wrath. Like for ages in my Nightmare team, before I had Morley and Mishnaki, I was running Duchess Bivald in that team, and it didn't have decreased attack. So it was just, that's what that team was lacking, and I knew if Wrath came out, well, typically I was running Geomancer then, so I'd burn it, and then just rely on its own damage to kill it. And that works, that's fine. It's again, just knowing what you're lacking and playing around that. Like this is another team where I was trying to build around Snick Track. So taking the ally protect, but then I want to bring Hex in. And it's about just knowing, what you're missing and what you're trying to cover as many as possible. But you see, so this team, so now in the last video I went through my Ragash rebuild. Now Ragash is doing way more damage, so I've then got Husk, Ragash, Tila for damage, Soulless. Again, I've got him in a decent damage build, but he's also a really good provoker. He also extends debuffs. What's this lacking? I don't know. It's not, the only way to deal with Torment is the Ragash Veil, which is on himself and one other person, so a little bit lacking there. We got the increased speed twice. We got decreased speed. We've got decreased defense, decreased attack, so not too bad, that one. I find Uko, pairing her, you then need a decreased defense champ, so I always find her a bit difficult to, I would say it's not really got any, we got a strengthen, so we've got a sort of defensive buff. So that's, sort of planning your teams and knowing where you're missing, and based on the buffs and debuffs. The one thing that you need to remember is where you've got a mischief tank and they're self-buffing, make sure that you're not bringing somebody else with that same buff. Because if you do, then, Mithrala's in this team. So Mithrala's in this team, which doesn't have a mischief tank. Well, in fact, it does now, because I just rebuilt this Shamel, I rebuilt a Shamel with damage, and then he started out damaging my Royal Guard, which is great. What I did, because this team was lacking a mischief tank, which is why I've taken mischief tank out of lacking on here, I put Shamel in a Blood Shield Ring, because that's sort of a known mischief tank, which is why he's got this little symbol here. I used the lesser increased defense to say you're a mischief tank. And I swapped his accuracy for resist. So now he's the mischief tank in that team. So, but I can't run Mithrala in this team because Bivald's self buff is strengthen. So I would love to have increased defense in this team. This is why my old team used to be Duchess, Bivald, Shamrock, because Shamrock brings the increased speed, the decreased speed, and the increased defense, which gives a tanky buff to this team, where we're in a team where we can't use strengthen, because that's Bivald's unique buff. if I take this team where Ragash is the mischief tank, Ragash actually has 2 self buffs, but one of them he gives to somebody else as well. So the perfect veil he gives to himself and somebody else, one other person. But then the increased defense is what he gives to himself. So we can't bring increased defense into this team, or he's lost his unique buff. He won't have one more buff. Again, you're probably running Lightning Shield on him, ideally, and you'll be running a Blood Shield ring on him, ideally, but it's not guaranteed, so that's what you want to try and avoid. So if I just flip to, I think this one's updated, but let's find out. Yes, so I've split these out, and they're a bit small, so what I'll do is I'll zoom in for you guys. This is like my cheat sheet, which I built with my clan ages ago. That's interesting. I thought that those guys were off. Yeah, they should be. When Hydra first came out, and then we've been sort of updating it slowly over time. When a new champ comes out, we try and remember to put them on, but no guarantees. But it's sort of the who am I looking for in my teams. I'm sure I have a version of this that I took them off. I'll find it, and what I'll do is I'll pin it. I'll put it in Google Drive or something. So this is my champ checklist. When somebody messages me or on Discord with a roster and is like, what my best team, then what I do is I go, right, who do you have in each of these roles? And how I usually start is going, who do you have that can mischief tank? Who do you have as an option for a reviver? Have we got one of the bigs? Yeah, have we got a Duchess, a Sivy, a Pythion, an Uko, an Elva, or a Cardiel? Sybil's okay. And then what I've done now is actually split this out to have a B tier, basically. Because some of these are okay, but they're not. If you've got a better option, then, like, I'm never running Arbor. I've got way better options. Unless I was doing, like, one of these sort of crazy damage teams where you're trying to just increase, boost turn meter and increase attack is useful. I'm never running Arbor. It's too squishy. And then sort of B tier mischief tanks, yeah, like you can use a Cleo to mischief tank, but she's not bringing a lot. You can use an Aboro. She's good, but she's super squishy, so it's really hard to get her tanky enough with all the other stats that she needs, because she still needs that accuracy, she still needs that resist, but her base stats are so low that I find it really difficult to make her work well. And what you do is you look at, what I typically do is I look at, okay, I know the buffs and debuffs that are priority for me, so what options do I have on my roster? How do they split across 3 teams? So first, build your best team, but then, don't put Duchess and Morley in the same team. Go, why is Morley not in here? She's amazing. She's not an amazing reviver. She's a good reviver, but it's mainly that she's bringing your provoke and your mischief tanking. Even though she's not in here, I'm going to have to add her in. Sorry, I'm distracting myself. So look at who have you got, and I'll be honest, what I normally do is I take a copy of this list for whoever I'm doing it for, I delete everyone they haven't got, and then I go, right, how many revivers have we got, and how do they split up well? I know that I can't put Sify with Ragash, because she brings increased defense. I know that I can't put... Does Uko bring any? She only brings an increased speed, and I don't think anyone self-busts with that. So yeah, how do I split these up between 3 teams? How many? And it's usually like, okay, how many Royal Guards have we got, and how many Husks have we got, and how many Geomancers have we got? That's usually a good starting point for anyone planning their teams. But yeah, the block buffs is often like I would never build a team without block buffs. I think I've said a couple of times. So Ukos and Ugos and 2 Hanaraks and Archbishops. Gerptuk, I'm probably going to build for a hard team again, mainly because I'm trying to push damage there for Hydra Clash. Deliana, I don't think is worth the book investment. Umbral, only brings that. She brings a provoke, but then she locks herself out for 5 turns. It's not worth it. So taking these and then going, okay, I know the roles I need to fill because I know which buffs and debuffs are the highest priority, and then looking at who you have on your roster that can fill those. So like, I'm really lacking loads of these good increase, decrease speed champs. I've got Lydia. I don't use her that often. I've got Shamrock, but then, you know, I'm missing a Necmo, I'm missing an Elva, like, I'm missing a Sybil, I'm missing a Krisk, I don't, Lady Kimmy, I'm just missing a lot of the sort of increase and decrease speed champs. But, you know, I could do something like run an Uko with a Tunisia because, again, so, and I should say, these, yeah, bold means they're filling multiple roles, a little star means they're excellent in this role. So everyone who's bold is filling multiple roles, and that's what you need in Hydra. You know, Mishinaki is a debuffer and damage dealer. He's bringing Hex, he's bringing decrease attack, he's bringing decreased defense. I'd really like to run him with Uko, because Uko brings block buffs and speed, but does not bring drop defense. So I always find someone to pair her with difficult, and Mishinaki's perfect, but frankly, Mishinaki is nightmare tier, and Uko, I don't think is. I mean, I'm sure people do, but I don't feel like her revive is quite consistent enough. So yeah, sort of looking at, okay, who have I got on my roster? How can I build a team? There's also, you know, teams that you can plan, like, you know, everyone will be running the Trunda teams, where it's like try and get all the heads dead at once, then give her increase attack and save her AoEs and use them there, you know, like trying to line it up perfectly for a perfect one shot. Personally, I don't do that. Like on a week by week, I just want to hit go and I want my keys to run and I want it to full auto, you know, and while Hydra Clash is running, I'll do it manual. Just want consistency. You can plan some of those teams, and there are some great combinations, like running a Shamil with a turn meter booster like Necmo or Deacon to get the whole team going much, much faster. Anyway, guys, I've been talking for too long again, so I'm going to cut it there. That's how I plan my teams, and it's, you know, how do I get the maximum coverage across the 6 champs that I'm allowed to bring, and usually that's trying to bring people who do multiple things, like trying to bring an Arix, who's an ally protector and damage dealer, trying to bring, yeah, you get the idea, Bivald, where he's mischief tanking and provoking, bring a Morley, who's turn meter boosting and provoking and mischief tanking and reviving. The more roles that you can fill with one, then the more space you have to fit in more damage dealers or, you know, some more buffs or debuffs. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. I will catch you in the next one. I hope this helps some of you build your teams. To me, it's really fun looking at how you can mix and match, mainly because it gets you able to use some of the champs that you wouldn't use otherwise. Okay, guys, thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.